want to speak on Nina Boy for a minute. Well, I should say that I want to kind of talk towards Nina Boy for a second. Now, Nina Boy, I keep trying to tune in with your live streams based upon all this, disagreements or agreements based upon these conversations that's going on about peace and whatnot, right? But I want to speak on this. Why do you keep speaking on field trips? Field trips is just a small portion of what being an outstanding Crip is, or an outstanding member. Just because you go on field trips, that don't mean that you in the same bracket as anybody else. And that's just the truth of the matter. Now, is it times to where anybody who been taking field trips, they got an opinion about certain stuff. Depends on what the conversation is. But just because you take field trips, that don't mean that you got great conduct. That don't mean that you move with the right type of morals and the right type of comprehension. It don't mean that you have say-so. It doesn't mean that you have power. It doesn't mean that you run the show. It does not mean that you are more intelligent or you are even equal to the person's mind level just because you done took a field trip. Field trips are important, and it's a different conversation for it. But when you keep trying to bring up that, it shows that you might not be so comfortable with your accomplishments in the streets. Because we talking about a verbal situation. Whether people is communicating through this YouTube versus YouTube, or they sitting in these meetings and stuff like that. This is all about expressing who you are and how you are mentally and what you know. And how you can be well spoken and how you can deliver things. This is not about who's the toughest. If you got a lot of field trips, if you got a lot of field trips about yourself, then the right people should know that. The people that's in, in your community and the people that's from the other side, they should know that. At least, a portion of them from your time frame and your generation of when you getting active or you taking your field trips. But every time you say that field trip stuff, I feel like you trying to make that carry more weight than what it is. You got people that's taking field trips, but when they ain't got certain stuff accessible to them, they act like real cowards. You got people that get in them court tanks and they become real cowards. You got people on them yards getting DPs and stuff like that, but they went to jail for taking field trips. But now you on the yard laying down on riots and stuff like that. You got people that was very dangerous before. You got people that was taking field trips before. Now they out here getting exposed by their own homies and stuff like that for being on the rainbow side of things. Carrying themselves like they something that they wasn't born, a certain way that they wasn't born to be. You got people out here that's taking field trips and they snitching. You got people who take field trips who done broke multiple rules, big rules, small rules, everything under the sun. So when you keep saying field trips, this conversation ain't all about that. It's about knowledge, comprehension. How can you interpretate things? And that's what it makes it look crazy on a lot of your deliverance. If you remove yourself from being active, or if you remove yourself from a certain settings, then guess what? That's cool. That makes sense if that's what you wanted to do. Some people move away because they ducking situations as far as law enforcement or just negativity, or people, and what I mean by ducking the police, I'm not talking about running from a warrant or anything like that. I'm talking about just you might be so hot where you grew up at or where you frequent at in certain streets and locations to where the best way for you to survive is to get out of the way of the police. Because anytime they see you, they might want to, they're going to launch an attack on you. They're going to grab you up, hem you up. Some cops possibly even do some dirty stuff and try to plant stuff on you. That's what I mean by that. And also, you got people moving away because rent, a job opportunity. They got more opportunity to get more funds. They could get more bang for their buck. They could get more rooms and stuff like that for they rent. People want to acquire a home somewhere, a place they probably couldn't get somewhere where they grew up at. And I understand that. You probably want the kids to grow up in a different space. I get that. But what we gotta know is we need to be okay with the choices we make. If that's the choice you made, Nina boy, and it just goes for everybody. If you want to make those type of choices, then be okay with those choices. Don't be a person who remove yourself and then want to get on the internet and try to prove how active or how involved you are, because it's gonna show. And that's for anybody. It's gonna show if you've been communicating with the right people. It's gonna show if you really tapped in, if you good in your section. Can you pull up in your hood? Can you do this, that, and the third? I'm not saying that everybody gotta be in agreement. I ain't saying that everybody gonna be at a good space with each other. I understand there's gonna be certain problems. People gotta, talk certain situations out, have fights. Who knows what it might be? But you shouldn't be trying to avoid no problems in your own hood. You shouldn't be trying to avoid it in the form of like if it's already there. Now, I'm trying to prevent problems, then I get that. But trying to avoid it and it's already there and you got stuff you need to clear up or whatever it is, then I get that. And I'm not saying, I get that, and you should be trying to get to a solution based upon them situations. I'm not saying that this is the case for Nina boy, but I'm just speaking in general at this moment. Dudes gotta stop trying to feel like they entitled to everything that got to do with Los Angeles and use it in the form of content. If you're not gonna do your homework, if you're not gonna have the right outlook, if you're not gonna be more for it than against it, if you're not gonna be, adding on to the solution as opposed to instigating problems and stuff like that, then what are you actually trying to do? So that's something I want to speak on real fast. Like I said, what brought me to this video was me trying to tune in and hear a lot of what Nina Boy got to say based upon his opinion with these talks of peace, ceasefires, conversing, seeking an understanding, whichever word we gonna use or whatever, title people feel like fit those situations the best. But I feel like we have to get on top of that, and Nina Boy keep bringing up these field trips, and that just drove me to make this video. Like, no, man, just because you dangerous, or just because you got field trips under your belt, that don't mean that you in the same ball, in the same bracket as the next person. You know what I'm saying? This is why you got a lot of people that probably ain't took a lot of field trips, but they have influence. They have leadership qualities. People take to them. They might have be charisma. They have sense. Might have finance. Might be a person who care for the community, and people can sense that. This person might be looked out for these people behind the walls. They might have looked out for these people when they was in need. They might have provided this type of level of assistance. You never know what it may be. But let's just not confuse a moment of actions with a person's overall conduct. A field trip lasts as long as it lasts. Not saying that you can't take away from people. Like I said, it's a time and place for where people who take field trips can, toot their horn, brag, boast, if that's what they want to do. My opinion would be, if you do certain things, you really don't even want it to be out there too much anyway, or at least be mindful on how you deliver it and how you speak on it. But in other conversations, in other situations, people who be on field trips don't always got no vote or no opinion. Because you might not even be smart enough to be a person who have any opinion. And that's just the truth in the matter. Just like you got money and muscle. You know what I'm saying? Those things go hand in hand, but everybody ain't going to be the money. Some people going to have to be the muscle. Some people ain't going to be able to be the muscle. They going to have to be the money. And then you got people who gonna probably say stuff like, they're both. And that's probably why certain situations that they try to be a part of don't necessarily work out the way it could have worked out, because you playing multiple positions and you gonna ruin this for everybody else by trying to prove that you some type of all-star player. Now, obviously, you should meet some level of requirement And that means that if you is the muscle, then you should have some level of money. And if you is the money, you should have some level of muscle about yourself to where you're not just a total coward or a sucker or a pick on people could pick on. And you shouldn't just be the muscle and you just some broke bum type of guy. But for the most part, your focus have to be on what your focus is. That's just the truth in the matter, you know? And you have to know that, just like and mental. You know what I'm saying? You got the same situation with these. Just because you the muscle, that don't mean that you the mental. You know, some people might not necessarily be the mental. But when we talking about these topics at hand that got to do with people mental and how they comprehend and what they know and where they're educated at, don't confuse that. I just feel like Nina Boy is taking that more than making that carry more weight than what it actually is. No disrespect to individuals who feel like, you know, they take field trips, they did, or they still doing it. No disrespect to them. I get it. But know that it's a time and place for those conversations to matter. If we talking about field trips and we got 4 people that ain't took field trips and we got 6 people who did, then those 4 need to be humble and be quiet if that's the conversation at hand. But outside of that, you bringing that up like that just make you equal. No, it don't make you equal. It's a good accolade. It's something that's good to your resume. But in certain points, homie, that's not gonna carry nowhere. See, we got a lot of suckers in these streets and a lot of cowards and a lot of people that just vulture off the culture, and a lot of people ain't never really uplifted anything that they claim to be, right? From any gang, whatever. And people be acting like what they do carry weight. Like Nina Boy, like you taking a field trip probably carry more weight with a person who ain't did that or who's scared of that or stuff like that. Because when you popping it like, I take field trips, like that don't really carry a lot of value with people who take field trips. It's like it's regular. You know what I'm saying? Like they still gonna give you your respect. They're not gonna disrespect it. They identify with it because they come from taking field trips too. But that is just regular. It's just regular. Real talk. That's just like dudes that get on the internet and they gotta wave every gun they got. Everybody posting guns and stuff like that to prove that they got a gun. Like that probably only appeals to those who ain't never ran around with a gun a day in their life. You know, a person that have come from having guns and using guns or keeping guns, whichever way you word it, they're not really impressed by you showing you have a gun. Because they already assume that everybody got a gun anyway. Even if people don't, they just come from a time frame to where that would be the best thought process to have to make sure you safe and you're not slipping. You know what I'm saying? Because you will lead yourself to being underestimating people. And once you start underestimating people, bad things can occur. So that's just what I want to speak on. I hope y'all get where I was coming from. You know, still, shout out to Nina Boy. I hope everybody was able to learn something from it, this video. But y'all can let me know how y'all feel about it, man. Keep it a Benji for me in the comments. Shout out to the Dice Crew. And I'm going to catch y'all in the next video. I'm out.